A phone rings. A child gets suspended. A mother walks into a school expecting the worst. But what she finds inside flips everything upside down. I walked into that office ready to defend my daughter for finally snapping. But when I saw this smirk on her face, small, defiant, proud, and the red-faced teacher wiping tears, I knew something wasn't adding up. They said she was suspended for being disrespectful, for calling her teacher stupid and mean in front of the whole class. But here's what they didn't tell me. Not at first. There was pee on the floor, a 7-year-old boy sobbing in his chair, soaked, and a teacher who told the class to look at him, told them he chose this, called him a baby, said maybe he needed diapers. And my daughter, she didn't just snap, she stood up. And in that moment, she became the only adult in the room who did the right thing. This isn't just a story about a suspension. It's about what happens when a child sees cruelty and refuses to stay quiet. It's about how one small act of courage can crack open a system built on silence. And it's about what we found in a drawer that changed everything. Because what happened next wasn't justice. It was worse. And better. You're about to hear something most parents never get to see. The hidden machinery of a school system protecting the wrong person. The quiet sabotage of kids who struggle. The lies written in red ink on official papers. And how a 7-year-old girl, my daughter, became the spark that lit a fire no one could put out. So if you've ever felt powerless when your child was hurt by someone in charge, if you've ever sent your kid to school scared for them, if you've ever been told, just give it time while something inside you screamed, no, this is wrong, then stay right here. Because this story isn't over. And what happens at the end? It starts with a piece of paper, a thick manila folder, and a secret no one was supposed to find. It was a Friday. I was in the middle of a budget meeting when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Miss Carter? A man's voice asked. Yes. This is Principal Davidson from Jefferson Elementary. There's been a major incident involving your daughter and Mrs. Bridges. Please come in immediately. I froze. Again? Not this woman. Not again. I'd already filed 5 complaints against Mrs. Bridges. 5. And each time the same thing. A polite nod, a form letter, and then silence. Like I'd never said a word. But this call was different. The tone in his voice, cold, serious, like the decision had already been made. I walked out of the meeting. Didn't explain, just left. When I pulled into the school parking lot, Mr. Davidson was standing outside the main office, arms crossed, jaw tight. This is completely unacceptable, he said before I could even get close. Your daughter verbally assaulted Mrs. Bridges during a test, called her stupid and mean in front of 22 students. I blinked. My daughter, Bennett, the same girl who flinches when a teacher raises their voice, who holds her breath when someone looks at her too long? She did what? He said. She laughed. She mocked her. Mrs. Bridges left the classroom in tears. I followed him inside, and there she was, Mrs. Bridges, sitting in a leather chair, tacent in hand, makeup smeared under her eyes. And across from her, my daughter, small, 7 years old, sitting in a chair too big for her. But her face, it wasn't scared. It wasn't ashamed. It was satisfied. Like she'd just done something she'd been waiting to do for a long time. I almost smiled, because I knew whatever happened, it wasn't as simple as they were making it sound. Bennett needs to apologize immediately, Mr. Davidson said, settling behind his desk. Mrs. Bridges nodded, dabbing her cheeks. She's been defiant all year. This was the last straw. Another one of her attention-seeking outbursts. Attention-seeking. That word again. The same excuse they used when Bennett hyperventilated because they took away her anxiety aid during a test. The same excuse when she threw up from stress because they wouldn't let her leave the room. The same excuse when they held up her failed test in front of the class and said, "This is what happens when you don't try." I turned to my daughter. "Bennett," I said, "can you tell me what happened?" Mrs. Bridges shifted. Her eyes flickered. "I'm asking her," I said, not looking away. Bennett looked at her teacher, then back at me. "She took my aid again, but then she did something else." I waited. "She wouldn't let Joseph go to the bathroom." Mrs. Bridges opened her mouth. "Let her finish," I said. Bennett kept going. He was crying. He raised his hand over and over. He said, "Please, Miss Bridges, I really need to go." But she told him, "You're not special. Finish your test first. You should have gone before we started." Mr. Davidson's eyebrows pulled together. "He has a medical condition," Bennett said. "He can't hold it. The nurse told her. His mom told her. Everyone knows." Silence. Then it happened. Joseph had an accident. Right there, in front of everyone. Pee went everywhere. On the floor, on his shoes, down his legs. And Mrs. Bridges? She didn't help him. She didn't send him to the nurse. She didn't even let him leave. She made him sit in it for 20 more minutes, while the rest of the class took their test. And then she pointed at him. "Look," she said, "this is what happens when we don't follow the rules. This," she said, "is what Joseph chose, to be a big boy." Then she turned to the class and said, "Maybe he needs diapers." Joseph was sobbing, couldn't breathe. His legs were red, burning. Kids were gagging. The smell was everywhere, and that's when Bennett stood up. She didn't yell at first. She just walked over to Joseph, helped him up, said, "Come on, I'll take you." And as they walked out, she turned back, looked right at Mrs. Bridges, and said, "You're stupid, you're mean, you're a bully." Then she walked into the bathroom. The other kids started talking, whispering, saying it wasn't fair, and Mrs. Bridges, she ran out crying. That's the story. But here's what no one told me. Joseph wasn't just some kid. He was Bennett's friend. She'd seen him cry before. She'd seen teachers ignore him. But this was different. This was public. This was humiliation. And she couldn't stay quiet. So she didn't. And for that, they wanted to suspend her. 3 days. And recommend a behavioral evaluation. Like she was the problem. Mr. Davidson turned to Mrs. Bridges. "Is this true?" She didn't answer. "Is this true?" Still nothing. "Oh, so you're pleading the fifth?" He opened his laptop. "Good thing we have cameras in every classroom." Her face went white. "That's not necessary," she said. "I think it is." He pulled up the footage. Fast-forwarded to the test. There it was. Joseph, hand up. Mrs. Bridges, pointing down. The accident. Him frozen in his seat. Her gesturing to the class. "Look at this. This is what happens. This is what Joseph chose." Mr. Davidson closed the laptop. Slowly. "Mrs. Bridges, my office tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. She didn't say a word. She packed her things with shaking hands, left without looking at anyone. And just like that, the suspension was gone. "Removed immediately," he said. "I apologize. I didn't say thank you. I just looked at my daughter. And for the first time in a long time, I saw something in her eyes. Not fear, not shame, pride." That Monday, a substitute teacher took over. Not just any substitute, a special needs assistant, one who actually knew what an IEP was. Bennett came home smiling. But when I went to pick her up later, the sub pulled me aside. She said, "I heard Mrs. Bridges is coming back this week." I felt my stomach drop. "She hasn't been fired?" "No, just suspended." Then she lowered her voice. "I found something in her drawer. I think she forgot to take it." She handed me a thick manila folder. I opened it, and my blood went cold. Page after page, accommodation plans for kids in that class, with one word scrawled across the top in red ink, ignore. Not crossed out, not questioned, ignore. I flipped through. There was Joseph's plan, bathroom access, X'd out. Bennett's, anxiety accommodations, scratched through. Another kid with dyslexia, extra time, ignored. Another with ADHD, movement breaks, ignored. And in the margins, handwritten notes. No exceptions. No bathroom breaks during tests. Underlined 3 times. This wasn't oversight. This wasn't a mistake. This was intentional. This was a pattern. I pulled out my phone, started taking pictures. My hands were shaking so bad I had to retake half of them. The sub grabbed the folder, ran to the printer, made copies, handed them to me. We didn't say a word. We both knew. This wasn't about one teacher. This was about a system that let this happen. And now, we had proof. I went straight to the principal's office, but his secretary stopped me. "He's in a meeting. Budget stuff. Won't be free until 4. "It's urgent," I said. I showed her 1 page. She looked at it, shook her head. "I'll leave a message. That's all I can do." I sat in my car for 20 minutes, just stared at the copies. Each page made me angrier. Each red X felt like a punch. This wasn't just about my daughter. There were 8 kids in that folder. 8. All with documented needs. All with legal rights.